Stay driven. Complacency is the killer of progress. No matter what it takes, every day, every job is going to be tough. Every time, it doesn't matter what career you go into, you're going to have your bad days where you're not having fun at work, but you have to keep pushing through the grind because you're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. That's just the way it goes. It doesn't matter. You can't, even if you say, oh, I'll quit this job and do a new job. It doesn't work like that. You're still going to have bad days in that new job. You have to stay driven. You have to stay focused. You have to stay motivated and always looking for how can I push my life and my family's life forward. If you get complacent, that's just the killer of any progress that you have for your family. So stay motivated.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Nixon. I'm a senior at Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware, Ohio. I major in business marketing with a minor in data analytics. I also play football for the Battling Bishops. I started this podcast to share the knowledge and advice with others. Just about every week, I try to bring on a guest who is viewed as a leader or motivator in athletics, coaching, business, and just life. A new episode is released every single Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss Motivation Monday at the end of each episode. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Find us on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter at RoughnecksPodC1. If you ever want to get in contact with the Roughnecks Podcast, you can message us on social media or email us at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review so you don't miss any other episodes. But for now, let's get into this week's show. Joining the Roughnecks Podcast this week for episode 17 is Trevor Scott. Trevor Scott is my old trainer. He's also an entrepreneur who has opened not one, but two gyms with Elite One Fitness and Apex Fitness recently, and both of which I would highly recommend if you're in the Licking County area. One of them is 24/7 now, so that's convenient for everybody. But along with the gyms, he has also started a healthy food company with pre-cooked meals that are similar to Chipotle, but healthier and better. Along with Simply Fit, he also has X Bites, which is jerky, and he talks a little bit about that on the podcast. This is a fun conversation with my old trainer, Trevor Scott. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into this week's episode. Trevor Scott, welcome to episode 17 of the Roughnecks Podcast. Like we mentioned on the previous episode, actually the previous couple episodes, each month is going to have a topic in mind, and that topic is going to be based directly or a little bit out of directly from the Champions Manual. The Champions Manual is something that I took from college football at Ohio Wesleyan and Coach Tom Watts, who is my head coach. And it's something he actually took from Jim Tressel from what he called the Winner's Manual. But he used it at Youngstown State and Ohio State. Jim Tressel also has a book on it, and it's one I'm currently reading. I highly recommend it. But this month is not directly out of the Champions Manual, but it's somewhat out of it. It's this month is inspiration, and each guest that I bring on fits into this topic, and you're about to find out why Trevor Scott fits into this topic as you listen throughout this episode. So like I said, Trevor Scott, welcome. Give us a little background on yourself just to start.
Inspiration, man, that's quite the intro. We let's see. So I don't know, probably grew up like a lot of people. Had a very good family. My dad showed a lot of care and love towards me and my brother, and he didn't have the most resources and didn't have a lot growing up, and so it was tough for him to teach us about things he didn't know or didn't experience. But one thing he was really good at was leading by example in his work ethic. Like, his work ethic is second to none. I mean, to this day, he still works more hours than anybody I know. He's 60 years old and he just still gets after it. So, his work ethic is one thing that he gave both of, my brother and I, and really allowed us to then, go figure some other things out for ourselves. But with that foundation, made a lot of things possible. So, starting off with him, I was fortunate to have such a caring, loving father in my life, and then such a driving force. He was very tough on us, but at the same time, he showed us how much he cared, and throughout sports. And that was kind of where it started. He's a big sports fan, grew up playing every sport you can imagine. And that whereas where the kind of the competitiveness kind of came in, and the competitiveness just breeds through everyday life. So learning how to, I guess, harness that, enjoy that, and embrace being competitive. It's really helped throughout, regular day life, business life, but then also when you're younger in sports and when you're having fun with it. So, that's kind of our growing up. Taught us about hard work, led us down the path of sports. We love sports. It really opened doors for me to be able to, with my hard work and dedication and the drive that he instilled in us, that's so important to have that drive, that affinity for life. Complacency is the biggest killer out there. Just being complacent with what's going on, the status quo. Anytime you get complacent, that's when that fire just burns out and the fire dies. Nothing really good comes from complacency. So being able to instill that drive into people around you and be driven is just something that I'll always thank him with with the upbringing. Moving into after that, went to college to play basketball, and that was a fun, amazing ride. Had a lot of fun with some teammates and everything there, and went to college. I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and I love giving back. I love helping others. My dad is one of the most selfless people I've ever been around, and he's been that way as well. He gives, and so I wanted to kind of do the same thing, cut from the same cloth. Graduated with a degree in mathematics, became a teacher, and I just realized there was something missing. That I loved the challenge of teaching and helping kids, but at the same time, I was a little more driven. I wanted more. I wanted to be able to create, to evolve, and to continue to challenge myself. So I ended up stepping away from teaching, and then I started in the fitness world, where I have always kind of really enjoyed the fitness side of things. I love to take care of my body, take care of my health. I love to help others do the same thing if I can. And we started a gym. Long story short, we're on to our second gym now, and also started a healthy food company called Simply Fit Foods, where we do meal preps. We do healthy the X-Bite jerky, like a combination snack. We do some other things. So kind of done some different business ventures. Also do a lot of, I'm big into the cryptocurrency world. Just very curious, very driven in different aspects. And there's just too much out there to kind of stay still, I guess.
I was going to ask you, and I think you pretty much already answered the question, is who was your biggest inspiration? Like when you were, I think it's pretty obvious who that big inspiration was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's and I feel so fortunate. I can't stress that enough, because I know there's some people out there who maybe weren't as fortunate as I was to have a dad in their life that really, gave the same to them that he gave to me. But I think, everybody has their own way of kind of weaving their way in and out. We all have our trials and our things that are tough for us. I've grown up with lots of tragedies and everything. Everybody's got that story or two. You just have to find your own path and find your own inspiration from, whether it's a friend or a relative, or, maybe it's a podcast or a personality, and really find that inspiration somewhere. But luckily it was growing up for me. So, yeah. So
like you said, you played many sports, but what was it overall that made you like kind of stick with basketball more than the other sports?
Yeah, I don't know. So it started off, baseball was huge. My whole family's a big baseball family, and really enjoyed that. It just became too slow for me. I think you can compare it to some, I think we have everybody's got that pet at home. So, right, I would be compared to that high strung, German Shepherd that doesn't like to stay still. I like to keep moving. So my personality, baseball, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I kept playing it. It just wasn't fast paced enough for me.
Yeah, baseball's too slow. That was always my problem. Yeah. I loved baseball, but it's like, It drags. And like, that's why I can't watch baseball either. Like I struggle watching it because it's just so slow. And
I didn't like the fact that I couldn't impact the game every second if I wanted to. Like, I have to wait my turn to get up. I can only field a ball if it's hit to me. So in basketball, I was able to hopefully help change a game, whether it's offensively or defensively, every possession. So just being more involved, the fast-paced nature of it. I think if my school would have had volleyball, I would have been all in on volleyball. I love that sport. That thing's high paced too.
So you open now 2 gyms. Where did
Yep.
like you talked about like you wanted more? That's why you started opening the
Mhm.
gym. What made you? Is it the whole wanting more? Is that why you started to open the second gym and go on with the healthy food as well?
Yeah. So it just kind of evolved. Started off. We've all done some personal training in the past, and I was helping people there. And then I kind of wanted to create my own atmosphere, my own personality. And so the first gym came of that. And kind of out of the darkness of 2020 last year, kind of came the new gym, which is pretty bold to open a new gym in the middle of a pandemic. But I kind of believe, through the darkness, there's that shimmering light that you have to kind of grab a hold of, like with little different. What's the word I'm looking for? When you pivot and you take an opportunity when it seems like there are no opportunities, type of thing. So what happened was we had COVID shut down our first gym last year, and it was shut down for some time. And so instead of taking one on the chin and just kind of stepping away and letting it, when the horse kicks you off, just staying off, we got back on the horse. And what we did was called up a couple. I called up another gym owner, and I said, "Hey, we both have respect for each other. Why don't we make a little pivot here, combine some of our resources, and create something even better for the community, and at the same time lower our risk when it comes to with COVID and everything that's going on." So we turned two forces into one, and we created a 24-hour gym. And we have now been open for, what's it been? A little over a month and a half, 2 months, and things are going absolutely awesome. Couldn't ask for more. People love the environment, and that's what it's all about, creating a good environment that people want to be at and want to show up to.
I feel like you got the best of both worlds with your gyms too, because like you said, you got that 24-hour gym, and like me personally, like there's not many 24-hour gyms in our area. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot, and ever since I've got to college, working during the summer and stuff, like it's been hard to find a gym that fits your hours well, to where you're not like rushing a workout, to where you have 30 minutes to get, try to get a workout in. But the 24-hour like added a nice touch to what you already had with the training and the body fit and all
Yep.
the stuff that you guys do. So you now have like almost all accommodations for
Yeah,
everybody.
it's really nice, and it's been a development over the course of almost a decade now. It's taken a long time, but you put the hard work in, and eventually you can't see through the mound of crap, and then eventually you see light at the end of the tunnel, and eventually you just keep pushing through and keep working hard, and it eventually comes to you. And I think too many people think it's just going to happen overnight, and you're going to have to put some time in, and eventually it'll come to you. Keep building that foundation. And what happened is now we have a facility that we train athletes. It's kind of like, and we also do like the catering of like your Planet Fitness style everyday gym goer, so we can compete with them price wise and have the regular gym, but then we also can do some things that they can't, and it's kind of nice to be able to not only compete with national chain franchise brands, but also offer things they can't. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like talking off that too, like the whole like training thing that you guys offer. I don't know if you realize or not, but you're one of the people who inspired me to like actually go play college athletics. Because in my head, we all have those dreams of being a D1 athlete. We all,
Yeah.
that's what we think. We're a D1 athlete.
Yeah.
And in my head, I said, unless I get a D2 or D1 offer, I'm not going to play football. I'm going to go to the military. And then I broke my elbow my senior year. Things didn't go the way I wanted them to. And honestly, I don't think I could have played D1 anyway. Once you get into that D3 world, you're all of a sudden you're like, I'm not as good as I think I am. You get that rude awakening. But you were one of those people who inspired me to like, don't, just because things don't work out, like keep going after that career. So was that like your goal when you started the training? Did you want that gym to be more of like the training and to inspire those people, like even not even directly, or was it more of you just wanted the gym itself?
Yeah, so it always goes back to the whole reason it was all started. And I kind of throw the question back on you. Like, think about like Christmas time or birthdays or whatever, whenever you're giving somebody a gift, like, do you feel better? Like, do you enjoy giving someone a gift and seeing their face when they get the gift from you more, or do you love receiving a gift from someone? And I think most people's answer is like they really feel that intrinsic like reward and whatever it happens to be when you give somebody something. And I mean, you just can't replace that feeling, right? And so that's where it all started. That's where it all goes back to. And that is always, front and center for us. And so it's just who we are. It's who we are as people. I think most people have it. You have it, or you just, I guess you just don't feel that way if you don't. But at the same time, just we love to see others succeed. And yeah, just giving back is it's so much more rewarding than receiving something.
Oh, without a doubt, like, because you definitely gave back to me. Like, I would have never been in the position that I am today if it wasn't for you guys at Elite. Like, I would have never. I mean, I would have had potential, but you guys like helped me exceed what my potential was. And I had Artie on, and Artie helped me. Like when he'd come in and run with us, he helped me push myself. So it's like little things like that. And like you guys brought Artie in, so it's like you guys helped push me, and it helped me exceed. And you guys are an inspiration, and you guys keep pushing people and you help people, and that's the whole giving back thing.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. That, like right there, that's exactly why you do it. That's the reward, and we can create some pretty good athletes, and we can really help you with things that you need. But at the same time, I mean, developing people as young men and young women, that's kind of that's almost as big, if not bigger than that building them as athletes, right? And so keeping these relationships like we have with you, we have with some of our other athletes, that goes on for years, and those types of things. You instill like good role models, and you just lead by example, and then hopefully they can kind of take one or two things from you and go make something of themselves.
Yeah, because you said good role models and stuff like that, and I'll never forget you guys being on me about when I was in high school. In a high school, you have all the temptations in the world, and especially in college too, they grow even more. Like to party, to do these dumb things that are tempting especially for young people. Like it's tempting, but I remember forget like you guys being on me about like you got to watch it, you got to stay away from that, because it's just gonna it could ruin any chance I have of playing college football. But yeah, you guys
takes your focus off.
Oh yeah, it does. So we talked about the inspiration for the gym. Now, what about the food business? Because that was almost like a little twist. Like I didn't see that coming, but I like it. But where did that come from?
Simply Fit kind of came out of just going to the gym every day and stopping at Chipotle afterwards and being like, man, there's got to be something else that's healthier than this. Because that was the healthiest we could find. So we're like, man, that'd be great if there was kind of a fast food but healthy option, and it just wasn't out there anywhere. And then eventually we just thought about it, and then it was like, hey, why don't we just start with like a food truck and then make it a drive-through food truck, and you can come up and get some kind of like Chipotle, but you have different options and healthier options without all the oils and extra added fats and whatnot. Just keep it a little cleaner. It started as that. Same time we started doing meal prepping, and people could order in bulk meals or just bulk chicken and rices and veggies. We vacuum seal that for people, and that's kind of taken off more than anything. And people really enjoy like the meal prep side of things. Meal prepping can be kind of tiresome, and we have pretty good rates. Our prices are very competitive, if not better than anywhere I know. And with they just order their food, we vacuum seal it. They can freeze it, they can heat it up in the vacuum sealed packaging, and we get it to them next day. And so that's it just kind of took a life of its own. It kept evolving, but it came out of the fact that I'm already treating my body really good with the gym. Why don't I just kind of go hand in hand with something to eat, for the nutrition side of things? We ended up coming out with a new healthy jerky that's like a chicken jerky, but combination snack with like whether it has cranberries, almonds, or butter toffee peanuts. It's kind of like a healthy snack, but in meal form, healthy meal, but in snack form. And it's just kind of one of those things that always keeps taking life of its own. But I will say for everybody out there looking to go into like different businesses or entrepreneurial, big advice, if I can give any, learning from mistakes is like one of the biggest things, one of the only things I had to go off of. And one of those mistakes is going too broad, too wide, too fast instead of going vertical. And what I mean by that is focusing on one discipline or focusing on one thing at a time, and making sure that's bulletproof and build it to the sky. And even though it kind of gets boring after a while, it's not new and exciting for you anymore. You need to build it up to where it's bulletproof. If you go too horizontal and you spread yourself too thin, too fast before any one thing is built up, it really, really makes it tough on you to succeed in any of the facets. You just become very average or less than average at all those facets instead of really good at one thing. And then once you build that one thing up, then you can start trickling into other places once it becomes more self-sustaining. But a business is like a fire, and if you don't keep putting wood on the fire, it'll slowly burn itself out. If you just think the business it can just survive and just go on its own, and that's another lesson that you just have to learn for yourself sometimes. But hopefully, we can get this message to some people, and they don't have to.
That's funny because that's actually, I was going to ask you questions about business and entrepreneur and what are some of the hardest things to handle? And you kind of answered it just for me, and I didn't even have to ask you.
I'm just so smart, Cole.
Yeah. I like to ask all my guests this because I find the importance, I find an importance on goals. And that's what I try to share on this podcast.
Yeah.
What does the future of Trevor Scott look like? And what are your goals?
Yeah. So that having a plan kind of is like the same type of thing that I just say in a different way. You say have goals, I say have a plan, but either way, it's the same thing. Like it may not always work out the way you planned it or what way your goals are set, but you have something you're striving towards, and you have to do that or you're going to fall again into that complacency. And complacency is the death of progress. And you just cannot make progress with complacency. So, staying driven, but then also the future, man, it's hard to say. Really looking to keep building the gym, of course, and building the food business. I have a near-term, medium-term goal of starting some real estate investments and a little holdings company there. And so that is kind of the next phase. And I've been for the last couple of years getting my ducks in a row so that can become a reality. Talking with my family over the last couple of years, it's like, hey, this is where we want to go. This is where we want to be in 3-4 years. We need to do this, and this these next couple of years so that when the time is right, we can go ahead and take that leap into the next venture. But again, you don't want to, like I said, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, but at the same time, whenever the time is right, we're going to do that. And that'll be the next venture into some other investing into real estate. Right now, over the last bunch of years, I know some people are into stocks and they do all their trading on that and stuff. I've been in big with cryptocurrency and stuff like that. So it's just a passion of mine. So that's one thing that has helped grow on the investment side of things. But just always planning for the future and always having a plan to what do I want to do with this? What are these investments for? Where are these investments taking me? And where do I utilize my time the most to get me to where I want to be?
If you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing when you're younger, what would it be?
Buy Bitcoin. No. Yeah, if I would have got that under $1, I think I'd be sitting pretty well. One piece of information to tell myself. Oh man, dang, you really put me on the spot here on this one. But I mean, there's so many things that you'd like to tell yourself, but the problem is all the mistakes that you make honestly help you more than some of them, actually all of your successes. A mistake is you learn from that so much easier, so much better. And so throughout all the mistakes I've made is honestly where it's gotten me. Like I mentioned my dad before, and he is so inspirational. Like I said, he's a great guy. One of his weaknesses was, he didn't have anybody teaching him, certain things about different types of investments or different types of, business sides of things. And so he was kind of like learning on the fly himself. And so then, that was kind of the way I was learning, just learning lessons on the fly. So I had to make a lot of mistakes. And through all those mistakes, it actually, helped me evolve and become smarter through messing up. So if I could go back and tell myself one thing, I don't really want to change myself, but I mean, I would tell myself, don't get too caught up in caring too much about what other people think as much as you do, because that's one thing that really stops me from some of the things that I really care too much what everyone thinks and try to please everyone. And you just can't do that. And it's very tough to do. And at the end of the day, you have to kind of while not mistreating anybody, still look out for what's most important to you and the people closest to you and do what's best for them. If you can do that without mistreating anybody, I think you're looking at things probably in a pretty good way.
I like to end every single episode with what I simply call Motivation Monday. It's only fitting since our episodes come out every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So what do you have for listeners who might need that little bit of extra motivation or inspiration on their Monday morning?
Stay driven. Complacency is the killer of progress. No matter what it takes, every day, every job is going to be tough. Every time, it doesn't matter what career you go into, you're going to have your bad days where you're not having fun at work, but you have to keep pushing through the grind, because you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. That's just the way it goes. It doesn't matter. You can't, even if you say, I'll quit this job and do a new job, it doesn't work like that. You're still going to have bad days in that new job. You have to stay driven. You have to stay focused. You have to stay motivated, and always looking for, how can I push my life and my family's life forward? If you get complacent, that's just the killer of any progress that you have for your family. So stay motivated.
I love that.
Hey, wait a minute. I haven't got to ask you any questions or not. I mean, what is this, just a one-way street?
I mean, you can ask me questions
all day and I have to answer them?
Go for it.
Yeah,
ask
I want to know
questions.
what's going on, man. Yeah. Okay. You've been doing some interviews here lately with a lot of people. Like what are some things that you're really picking up that seems to be some of the best little tidbits of advice that you've heard, obviously, besides what I've said? I mean, that's all gold, of course.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say stay driven and stuff, and complacency. And I had Richie Worship on, who was Purdue running back, and he talked about he refused to be written off. He got injuries and he refused to be written off, and that was that whole stay driven. Don't be complacent with, okay, I'm done. Like, my injury just ended my career. He wanted to get back, and he told the coaches, he said, look, I'm doing this for me, not for you. Like, I'm doing this for myself, to prove to myself. And then he's like, if I prove to you on the way, then that's great. And it's like that. And just the Motivation Mondays are the greatest thing for me personally. Cause like, he kind of shows you, like, it gives you that little bit of advice. And Cam Smith said it in one episode where he said, attack. Anything, whatever you're dreading, whatever the good thing is, the bad thing is, attack it, go after it, and don't be afraid of it. So it kind of all goes off of what you just said, which is it's repetition is key. When you hear it over and over again, you start to realize, oh, like, this might be something I want to hang on to. So those are some of the things I've learned. And like, the business side of things are great, because I'm somebody who would like to be an entrepreneur. And, I've had people on who have opened a lot of businesses. I've had at least 3 people who have had businesses, and it's a learning point for me. And I took an entrepreneurship class this past semester, and I learned a lot. And I learned that you're not going to learn through a textbook as much as you will through people who have actually experienced it. The people who have experienced it are going to
100%.
give you because they made those mistakes, and they're trying to help you avoid making the same mistakes they did. Or, hey, this worked, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you, and stuff like that. So I've learned. And
even though you hear it sometimes, you still have to go through those mistakes yourself. And sometimes it just, you can hear it 12 times. It's like, you know what, I just met myself, hopefully not in as big a fashion.
Yeah. Yeah. But this podcast, that's what I would say. Like, I don't do this podcast for myself. I mean, I learn a lot, and it's more like, I want to share everybody else's messages, to other people, because there's a lot of people out there that we can learn from. And, podcasts are becoming as good, if not better, than books, because like, there's such great learning.
Oh yeah. 100%.
There you can learn so much through a podcast.
Learning vehicles.
Yeah. So
what are some, and that's with, people don't understand, entrepreneurship is really cool, and it's awesome for people who are driven, and it has tremendous upside for your future as an individual, but it also can be very difficult and very daunting. And, it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things to do. And you have to have the drive, you have to have the stick-to-itiveness, and you have to be able to push through when things are tough. It's not a 9-to-5 job. Like, you're going to work all day, every day, until you get it to where you need it to be. So, I mean, you have to have the right mindset going into it. It's not like, I'll be this glamorous business owner, and from the outside, it looks like all peaches and cream. But from the inside, it's not like that. And it is very tough. And you have to have your mindset right. You have to be tough. You have to be mentally tough and mentally driven to be able to execute and finish something like that. But as far as like, so what are you thinking as far, like, what are some things that intrigue you? Like, as far as like entrepreneurship, like what categories of business, I guess you would say?
I've had a few different ideas, like this past summer, I helped
Mm-hmm.
install fiberglass pools and put in paver patios. And the paver patios side of thing,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I loved doing it. Like I loved learning about it. It was one of those things like, yeah, it was hard as shit. Like it sucked, especially in the middle of summer when it's 90
Mm-hmm.
degrees. But I loved every ounce of it. And I was trying to like learn everything I could about it. And it was one of those, that was like, I think my first real opening at like, hey, I kind of want to like start my own business. And it was maybe not necessarily that, like at the time, that's what you think. And then I'm one of those people that I get an idea
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden I'm going all for it. But then I like kind of slow down. And I'm like, take
Yeah.
a second, think about what you're doing, like really think it out. But I actually possibly have an opportunity right now there's a a product already made, and it's a rescue system. I won't get too much in detail about it yet because I might have to
Yeah.
use it for a national business pitch competition thing. So, um,
Nice.
but I mean, there's an opportunity there to like go with that and try and work off that. But I don't know exactly what I
And
want to
that's
do.
kind of a cool thing too. Yeah, that's kind of a cool thing as far as the no, you're saying with being an entrepreneur, jumping on with another idea is sometimes the best thing you can do, and rock with a good idea and be able to help build that product or that company up and be, a manager or a operating officer at whatever level that is. And then, maybe eventually start your own type of thing. But, being a part of a team, you can't replace that either. You don't have to always start your own idea. You can just be part of a team who's bringing an idea to the forefront or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You talked about that. Like everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. Like that guy has a great idea for something that has a lot of
Mm-hmm.
potential, but he doesn't quite understand the business side of things. So like that's where, like you said,
Yep.
joining in a team, like you almost need sometimes to join in a team because you need those people that I've always heard through people that I've talked to. They always say hire people smarter than you, because like figure out your weaknesses
100%. Yep.
and hire people smarter than you. He's like, doesn't make you
Yep.
worse. It just shows that you're filling in the gaps that you have to fill in.
That's incredible advice. What about like, do you do you doing any investing or looking into anything like that? Like whether you saving up for anything, or where's your mindset on that?
I'd love to get into investing. When I take classes and stuff and kind of learn about it, like it's something that really intrigues me, but I don't know enough. Like I'd still have to learn more about it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I would love to get into, but I'd also have to make sure I have enough money to get
Yeah.
into
Right.
it because, I'm going to be in debt
Right.
with school. Like that's part of school,
Yep.
and that's something I'm going to have to figure
Yep.
out. So,
And there's always people, like you said, there's always people out there that are smarter than you, and surround yourself, with whether it be a financial advisor or something like that. I guess let's go back, and you asked me the question of one thing I could tell myself when I was younger. It would be, I would give myself some financial advice of starting sooner, as far as, getting ahead on the investment side of things for my future, not necessarily doing everything in the now. Because, for the first, however many years out of college, I did everything for in the now. What am I doing right now? How can I get myself to this next step? And I really wasn't thinking 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But even if you aren't doing a ton or putting a ton of money away, having a plan, having a step, having a goal of processes, already be thinking about it at a younger age. I think that would be the advice I would give myself, start 5 years earlier.
it's crazy because we all probably got that advice, but hardly anybody listens to that advice. Because I wish I could go back
Right.
and be like, hey, you don't need that new golf club, or you don't need an extra pair of football cleats. Like you don't need the $30 more expensive pair of gloves.
Yep.
Like slow down. Like you can get this and you'll be
Uh-huh.
perfectly fine. But I wish I could go back and figure out
shiny new toy syndrome.
I have it bad, and my girlfriend hates me for it.
That's okay. Eventually, I don't know if it wears off, but you control it a little better.
Oh, I've learned to especially once I
Yeah.
started getting a job where I was making a lot of money, like a lot more than what I'm used to. I was like, oh, like, hey, maybe you start like putting some of this over here, like, so you don't use it all. But
super rich when you get that first paycheck. That's way more than you're used to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you realize it doesn't go as far as you think after a year or two.
Yeah. But with that, I'd say that's a wrap on episode 17 of the Roughnecks podcast. Thank you, Trevor Scott, for joining the show.
Hey, best of luck to you, Mr. Nixon.
And to you. Make sure you guys check out his gyms and his food company. I will definitely talk about that more when I do the introduction into this, but definitely check those out. What are your socials for that? Or your social media? Where can they contact you for that?
Yeah, the Apex Fitness Center on Instagram and Facebook. We don't have a Twitter or anything set up for that. The food is simplyfitohio.com, Simply Ohio, Instagram and Facebook as well. So yeah, if you guys want any help, we'll check it out and love to have you.
Oh, and I highly recommend. I've been through it, so I highly recommend. But with that, Roughnecks out. That was my conversation with my old trainer, Trevor Scott. I hope now you can see why I wanted him to be on this month to talk about inspiration. The man himself is an inspiration. He went ahead and opened Elite One Fitness, then grew to Simply Fit and X-Bites, and now Apex. He keeps pushing to be better and helps others be better. He inspired me, and I know that he's inspired many other young people and even adults. He is someone you want to be around. He makes everyone around him better along with himself. Be sure to check out his gyms and food company. He listed his socials at the end of the podcast. And you can also check out their website at www.theapexfitnesscenter.com. Check them out for sure. I believe they're doing a deal right now also where the first month is only $1. It's definitely worth it, and it's 24/7, so you can go in whenever the hell you want to. But make sure you follow them on social media, and when you get done doing that, follow the Roughnecks on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter at Roughnecks Pod C1. If you like this episode, then scroll down and rate and review. Oh, while you're there, you might as well subscribe. If you really like the Roughnecks podcast, then you should share it with a friend. If you want to contact us about potential partnerships and or collaboration, then you can email roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. You can also use this email if you have any questions for me. Thank you for all your support, and I will see you guys next week. But for now, you know the deal. For now, Roughnecks out.